Hello, my name is Marcus Morris. I am the author of the book Lackandtheartofdeprogramming. Sacrifice to the gods. Sacrifice or offerings to a god or a deity is an ancient religious practice. And one of the things I wanted to discuss is why does God or gods in general require sacrifice? So here's another thing that was really interesting back then. So you know how there's Adam and Eve, right? And then out of nowhere, well, not out of nowhere, but the Adam and Eve have Cain and Abel, which are their two sons. And then out of nowhere, Cain gets a wife, right? He gets her pregnant. There are only 4 people on earth, supposedly according to the Bible. Where did these other people come from? Where did he get his wife? And Cain goes on to build a whole city, and where did all these people come from for him to build a city for? Like, why is all that missing? But yeah, that's the Bible for you. We'll get into that in a little while. So, the story of Cain and Abel, right? So, Cain offers God a offering of crops. Abel offers him an offering of like a lamb, or burnt flesh of some sort. And God rejected Cain's offering, and he preferred the sheep that Abel offered him. So God took this sheep, and which made Cain extremely jealous. So Cain kills his brother Abel, and yeah, that's that. Abel's dead. What God preferring the offering of sheep might be sort of an allegory to humanity, right? Like, people have been called sheep, and the leader of a sheep is called a shepherd, right? So you have an offering of sheep to God. Maybe this is an allegory or a metaphor for human beings or sheep, and Abel's able to lead people to God. Maybe that's why God preferred the offering of sheep as opposed to offering of crops, which may not necessarily lead people to God because they grow out the ground and you sow and then you reap and then you feed yourself, and that's pretty much it. But sheep is more of like an allegory where you have to lead people. So maybe it's just like an allegory. Maybe like I said before, I don't think a lot of these stories are supposed to be taken literally. I like to think a lot of them metaphorically. So that's the way I think of that story. As far as we know, with Cain building a city afterwards, it's wild. I don't know. There's big chunks of information missing here. Okay. Are humans food for the gods? Abraham was asked by God to sacrifice his son. He didn't go through with it because God stopped him, but it seems that God often desires sacrifice. Examples of sacrifice are in Passover, when God kills the firstborn sons all across Egypt. Jesus is his ultimate sacrifice, the sacrificial lamb, the sacrifice to end sacrifices in terms of our Christian religion. Osiris is also a sacrifice. And in church, we eat of the flesh of Christ and drink of his blood. That's a symbolic sacrifice, which is called in Egyptian a shabti. So, if you practice the Eucharist every Sunday in church, you are engaging in sacrificial ritual. But you didn't really think of that. Well, most people didn't really think of it that way, but it's an ancient practice, and that's what it is. A lot of the sacrificial rituals back in ancient times were based around cannibalism. Another name for man could be Homo neckens, because Homo neckens means man the killer of ritualized bloodshed. A modern day sacrifice can be thought of as war, bloodletting. In ancient times, we also had foundation sacrifices where children were sacrificed and placed beneath structures such as a temple or a large grand architectural masterpiece of that time. And these sacrificial offerings beneath foundations of a building were thought to have strengthened the building, and the souls of those, usually children, were thought to have protected that structure for as long as it stood up. So it was the Egyptian god Ptah that came up with the concept of the substitution sacrifice. So as I speak today, the world is going through some severely problematic conflicts. One is Ukraine, dealing with the Russians and Ukrainians, who are at a extremely aggressive combat or war. And then you have just recently Israel and Palestine, where between both situations, countless thousands of people are dying, almost on a daily basis. So, what is this with how is this with sacrifice? It seems as if sacrifice is something that's maybe required by, a higher order or by the gods, and maybe wars is just sacrifice. People are just okay. So let me rewind a little bit. So war seems like in a way that where we continue to engage in bloodletting under a different name. You may not call it sacrifice, but it's still an extreme form of bloodletting. Now, instead of being sacrificed on a pyramid and tossed down the stairs like the Aztecs, you were sacrificed in a battlefield. And usually it's for a reason that usually we're just doing it under order of someone else, under order of a higher power. So this higher power, let's say it's government, is ordering you to kill somebody. Isn't that a form of bloodletting? So why are we sacrificing ourselves for powers that we do not understand? We're still doing that today. We are still bloodletting. We're still engaging in enormous amounts of sacrifice. Will Homo neckens, humans the killer, man the killer, ever break out of this cycle of bloodletting? I thought we could at one point in my life, but today I am not sure. I mean, is it possible? Yes, but is it gonna happen today? Absolutely not. It's heartbreaking to see so many countless thousands of people dying on a daily basis. So how do today's wars relate to ritualistic sacrifice? Honestly, what's the difference? When someone is killed for pretty much no tangible reason, I don't see a difference between ritualistic sacrifice and wars. It's still bloodletting. It's still unnecessary. And it's still extraordinarily painful to witness. Let me hear your thoughts on this. Please leave a comment below, and I'd love to get into a discussion with you about it. Thank you for watching. See you next video.